Hey everybody, welcome to Cinema A to B. Today we're going to be talking about season 3 of The Mandalorian. So just out on Disney Plus. So Ben, you just finished it.
Mm-hmm.
What'd you think?
What a hot mess. So, where to begin? Visually, beautiful show.
Yeah.
I don't have any gripes there. It's fantastic. They've kind of upped their game in a lot of ways versus seasons 1, 2, and then Book of Boba Fett. Unfortunately, tonally, instead of a continuation of season 2, we've decided to go full Book of Boba Fett with the tone of the show, which I just don't particularly care for. But then you get these glimpses of what season 2 kind of was, because they're kind of trying to continue some of that narrative. But yeah, what's up with wasting 6 episodes? And then I get to the meat of kind of what I really wanted to watch in episodes 7 and 8.
Yeah,
is kind of effectively what happened with my viewing experience. So I'm not happy.
Yeah, I don't. I have one change that, if this change gets made, could possibly, at least in my opinion, could possibly change the tone of the entire series. Like, keep all the episodes the same, except kind of it changes one. So, slight spoiler, if you haven't seen it, then turn this off now. But so what? Episode 2 or 3, Mando bathes in the waters, right, and redeems himself, right, which was his whole quest, right? Mm-hmm. Had they made it so he didn't bathe in episode 3 or 2 or whatever, I forget which one it was, if they didn't bathe in it, but he kept getting stopped, and then something happens and he has to be saved, but he never bathed. So then at the end, instead of the little kid being bathed, it's him being bathed and being kind of redeemed, because then everything else still makes sense. It's not so much about taking back Mandalore to take back Mandalore. It's taking back Mandalore so he can be redeemed to get back into the Watch and become a child of the Watch again. Because at that point, then a lot of these, bowing to Bo-Katan or finding her, getting her people on board, trying to get the different clans back together to take it, makes sense, because it's an ends to a mean for him. Otherwise, it just feels like we're just, and the word I put it is aimless. This entire season felt aimless, and no payoff whatsoever. So
no, there's not. There was one kind of cool reveal for me in episode, I think it was 7 or 8, and I won't spoil that one. That was kind of neat, but yeah, the rest of it, I never felt like I really was rewarded for watching. And the first 2 episodes, I could really tell things had strayed off course, because there was no subtext in any of the dialogue. And all I'm getting is Mando literally narrating for me what they're going to do, because for whatever reason, they felt like he had to constantly convey to Grogu what they're doing. And it was utterly awful.
Terrible.
It was just it's terrible writing. It's unnecessary. I've got a whole theory on why this is, and I'm just going to share it right now.
Do it.
I think Jon Favreau and Kathleen Kennedy really are feuding, and I think this season is his middle finger to her. Yep. For them forcing them to bring Grogu back.
Yeah.
Because I've read that that's true, that what we got at season 2, he was supposed to stay with Luke. And the executives went, holy smokes, we can't let you do this. We're not going to sell enough Grogu toys if he's not featured prominently in season 3. And so they forced him to bring him back. And this whole thing felt like, maybe not Filoni, but it felt like Favreau was just going, F you. This is when I'm going to give you kind of a half-assed season 3. Because that's what this felt like. And I know Jon Favreau is a good writer. Yeah. And a very talented director. And I kept seeing his name popping up on episodes as this credited writer. And I kept thinking to myself, there's no way he didn't just mail this in.
Took his check and went.
I hope I'm wrong, but this is what it felt like. Because the writing was not up to par.
No.
Season 1 and season 2, go back and watch it. If people don't believe me, go back and watch those seasons. The writing is vastly better. There's subtext throughout any dialogue. Grogu is inserted where he makes sense.
Mm-hmm. And he's not just thrown in to be like, hey, let's make this cool. Like, and the other thing too is like Mando didn't talk that much in especially the first season. Like he only spoke when needed, like that kind of necessity, and which made him gave him that mystique, gave them a little bit more of kind of this power in the scene because you don't really know what he's thinking. Now the guy is a chatterbox and it's like, shut up and you've lost everything. Also, what has happened? Not against animals. He's always been terrible against fighting animals. And every single season, like animals just kick his butt. But if it wasn't animals, he was dangerous, like really dangerous. And I feel as the seasons go, he's getting worse and not better, like as a fighter. Like you go back and watch like season 1 when he goes in and fights the stormtroopers, or even when he goes in the first episode when he goes in and gets Grogu, like he's dangerous, and granted, we've upped the ante, but he's got to have gotten better. And we've lost a lot of the fun things in his suit, like the Whistler missiles. Like where have those gone? Like I know they're expensive to make, but like it's just we could be doing so much more to at least make it interesting if we're going to have this story, because it's an aimless story. It's not interesting. It was ho hum at best, and especially coming off of Andor. Like the dialogue has never been great in Mando, but it's this season 3 is definitely the worst.
It's been good.
Yeah,
it wasn't. Yeah, I agree. And Andor is the 10,000 pound elephant in the room.
Yeah,
or 100,000 pound elephant in the room. But that's not what saying that Mandalorian should be at all.
No. It's a different tone.
But I know what Mando season 1 and 2 was tonally, structurally. This felt like, in fact, I enjoyed Book of Boba Fett more than this season. I did. And a lot of it was sort of the nostalgia of going back to Jabba's palace and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That played up that factor for me. And so I was like kind of geeking out a little bit, but tonally this thing is right in line with how Book of Boba Fett felt, kind of some of the hokey stuff, like but then it bounces back and forth between, you get these glimpses of, oh yeah, that's what season 2 was like. Mm-hmm. Right. Like a lot of episode 8 was closer to what season 2 felt like. And then, the action sequences and the look and the feel of everything. I'm going to try not to just spend this entire episode banging on this season. But another thing I'll say is they've completely wasted Giancarlo Esposito as an actor, as Moff Gideon. Mm. He's so one-dimensional, and you have an actor that's capable of giving you so much more nuance. I mean, this is the guy that played Gus Fring, for crying out loud. Like, give him more reasons for doing what he's doing than what you're telling me, because he's so one-dimensional, almost just a cartoon character villain. And maybe that's what they're going for, but it just seems like a waste of talent.
Yeah. So I'm going to say something controversial. I've never liked him in this role. I think he is fantastic. Now, and it could be just his direction, just the dialogue he has, but I've never liked him, even from season 1. Like he's not scary to me at all, and I just want him to go away. Like
he's like 5'6", by the way. I've briefly met him.
Yeah, which is fine. Like
he's a fantastic actor, but yeah, physically he's not imposing.
Which is fine. I don't need him to be physically imposing, because that's not what he is. He's the leader or whatever and stuff like that. Obviously he does go out and do some fighting, but I need him like. What the last episode when he goes on this long monologue in season 1. This is season 1, sorry. And that long monologue, I'm turning off. I'm like, come on, just kill him already. Like, like what are we doing? Like, this is boring. And that's what he does. He just monologues and expounds. And it's like, this is not an interesting bad guy. Like, I would much rather have Werner Wurzga. No, that's what's his name? Werner
Herzog.
Herzog, the guy who's like, bounty hunting is a difficult profession or whatever. He was far scarier than Moff Gideon, in my opinion. Like, I thought he was a much better bad guy than Moff Gideon. Yeah. Anyways, so I'm hoping we're done with him. Like, I just need, this character needs to kind of go away and let's move forward, but I don't see that happening at all. They've done too many setups for things. And
yeah.
And as someone who's read a lot of the Legends books and holds the Timothy Zahn trilogy in high esteem as like my favorite series of books of all time, I'm getting really nervous about how this is heading, because I don't feel like it's going to do justice. And another hot take, I've never been a huge Filoni fan. I don't think he's bad, but I don't share the love that everyone else has. I've watched Rebels. I really liked Clone Wars. Is very hit or miss, but he likes to play fast and loose with canon, even his own canon that he makes up. Like, I'm just nervous. Like,
he kind of endeared himself because he does serve as this encyclopedia of a lot of canon and expanded universe material. Like, he's consumed it all, and he works for Lucasfilm, and he's kind of been given the reins. But I don't know. I just know what he and Favreau are capable of as collaborators based on the first 2 seasons of this show, and that's not what they've given me since season 2.
Not at
and
all.
I know Book of Boba Fett wasn't. I don't even think Favreau was involved in that. I don't even know if Filoni was. I mean, they were around, but they don't show up a lot on the credits. Yeah. So, but they're sure responsible for season 3, and they just didn't meet their own standards, and I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
Like I said, I think Favreau might have kind of mailed this in based on his frustrations with effectively being told what to do with the direction of the show in order to sell more merchandise. But you work for the mouse, so that's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, and the other thing too, that the thing that has plagued the Star Wars movies, especially the sequel trilogy, was that it doesn't feel like they have a planned out story of like, or it seemed like they kind of did for season 1 and 2, and then that's why I'm feeling, I agree with you that Kathleen Kennedy or the mouse decided to kind of be like, nope, we need more Grogu, because I feel like this was very rushed, very trying to kind of piece other story beats they already had, but then add Grogu or lose some of these pieces, right? Because I think this show gets stronger without Grogu. I think that 2-season arc like was great. It cheapens the season 2 finale. Very much so, I think. And the fact that it all happened in for a lot of that stuff is Boba Fett, like, ruins what could have been in this season too.
I have the same kind of frustrations that I had with Giancarlo with Katee Sackhoff, because Bo-Katan feels one-dimensional. Mm-hmm. And she's a much better actress than this role's really allowing her to flex. I mean, I've been watching her since Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah, and she's excellent.
She's tremendous. Yeah, she's kind of been, unfortunately, she's been pigeonholed a little bit into the sci-fi space, but she's embraced it and definitely brings her A game in anything she's in. But yeah, I have the same kind of complaint. There's just not enough nuance in this show. There's just not. What it had, it's kind of lost. Yeah. And I'm not done with the show, right? I'm not like, oh, I'm not going to watch season 4.
No,
I won't do that. I won't do that. It's still entertainment, and it still has elements that I was like, oh, that's really neat. But it was really towards the very, very end of the season that I had those moments where I was like, well, that's pretty spectacular, actually. And yeah, it just felt like such a mismatch, because I was getting really poor dialogue and average to below average story with visuals that were just constantly like knocking my socks off. And it was such a mismatch. It was like, man, this looks amazing. I mean, you have Mandalorians flying up through those storm clouds, and they gave you the camera angles that I love, where you would have had like a camera on a fixed angle on his jetpack, and you can see the water and stuff blowing by. He's doing, a couple 100 miles an hour.
Yeah.
And it looks real. Like, it doesn't even look CGI. It looks real. And those kind of level of visuals are throughout the show, but nothing else is at that level. So it's beautiful, but it's kind of empty. Mm-hmm. It's not unlike some of the gripes we had with the prequel and sequel trilogies, where the visuals were never really a huge problem, but everything else was.
And it's so I've had this discussion with a lot of people about talking about saying that I want better dialogue, like dialogue from Andor, and they're like, well, tonally it's different. Like, no, you can have a different tone, but the actual, like you're talking, the nuance of the dialogue, what we're talking, doesn't have to be just exposition or let me explain what I'm doing on screen right now. Andor doesn't do that, but we get a lot of that, especially in season 3. We got some of it in the first 2 seasons. Why I say it's good, not great for the first 2, but it's like I want this high quality stuff. Like this could be so much better than it is. Visually, it's great. Musically, the score is fantastic as well. Like and even the sound design is great in this too. It's like you have pieces that are fantastic, and then you have this big pile of junk that could easily be better. And like you said, I know Jon Favreau can be better. I mean, this is the guy who did Iron Man. This is the guy who did
Jungle
Elf.
Book.
All this stuff. Like he knows how to write dialogue. He knows how to direct.
Well, and he knows story structure too.
Yeah. And that's why it feels so weird that the whole story of season 3 is so out of whack and aimless.
It didn't even follow the hero's journey, which he's pretty consistent with in his movies and other projects. And it didn't even follow any of that. It was just shooting from the hip. And the other problem I had was you never had I didn't have a new character in here that was like a Timothy Oliphant.
Oh yeah.
Like you didn't have a guest star that was like that cool and had that level of charisma. Mm-hmm. And like there's nobody in this that kind of gives you that feel, and it needs it. Yeah. And they strayed away from the whole Western thing too. Like it's not that anymore, which
is fine. It needs to grow. I mean, but that's kind of what this was supposed to be,
season 1 was total Western, and I loved every minute of it. And then they still peppered it in season 2, and now it's like it's gone.
Yeah. And the cameos, I know a lot of people were upset with like Lizzo and Jack Black. Like that didn't bother me at all. Like it was fine. So, yeah, sorry. I mean, but if you've been online at all, then you would have seen this. The other cameo in that episode actually was the one that threw me the most when took me out of it. Mm-hmm. Jack and Lizzo was. I was like, this is perfectly fine.
We'll save that one for
if you haven't watched
spectacular level of terribleness.
So it's just story beats, like obviously like the first episode with the stuff with and Navarro with IG-11 and things like that, it was too long, kind of way too long, and also didn't make a lot of sense. Like I felt like that was just kind of thrown in there to make this connection, kind of this semi fan servicey. I mean, I don't know, is it too soon to be fan servicey? But like that didn't need to be there. And also, I'm sorry, Carl Weathers needs to go. He is, out of everybody, he is in my opinion, the worst actor on it. Like I hate every scene he's in. I'm just, especially when he's like out like this season. I'm just like, you're phoning in. I do too, but like, he just doesn't fit. Like,
they've wasted him because they just leave him on Navarro.
Yeah. Like
he doesn't go. He should go with them. Like surely this character can fight.
Yeah.
I mean, he's survived this long. Surely this character can fight. And I know Carl Weathers is really pretty old, but he still looks fantastic. And he's clearly taking care of himself. So just have him go with and kick some butt.
Yeah.
Because then you get rid of a lot of your complaints, I think, as far as him just kind of
like
no one around.
Just
because it doesn't work. It's yeah.
And
the other problem I had was all the scenes on Navarro. And the Trekkies are going to hate me for this. all the scenes on Navarro felt like an episode of like Star Trek: The Next Generation. Like it had that look where I could tell they were on like a really small set, and I could kind of see the edge of the world.
Yeah.
Like, and for anybody that doesn't know what the heck I'm talking about, watch movies, watch good movies and great movies versus bad ones. You'll be able to see in a bad movie like where like the edge of the screen, for a fact your brain knows on the other side of the edges of the screen is production crew and cameras and equipment,
or how deep it goes.
Yeah, but in a great film, your brain thinks that if the cameraman just decided to whip to his right, it would be more of the world. And most of the time in Mandalorian, you can't feel the edges of the world. Like it feels very expansive. But for whatever reason, they go to Navarro, like the rebuilt Navarro. They're shooting in the same spaces of the set. Like you could tell the set wasn't that big. And it felt like Star Trek. And I like Star Trek, but it always had sort of a canned feel because the budget was so much lower. And that was kind of a complaint of mine was there were a couple places they go that felt that way.
And so because it's bound to happen, another Andor stuff, unfortunately comparison, but like look at Navarro. I think this is what's that? Not the Void. What is it called?
It's an expansive OLED surround stage. A bunch of different companies make them now. So
anyways, I think it's great. I think it's revolutionary, but it does happen to give a lot of that kind of, you can see the edge of the world kind of a thing. Cause it does push everything in. Cause I'm thinking about this.
Why, by the way,
why is that?
It's the floor. So the floor seems to always be 2 level. They don't ever seem to give me a really uneven ground.
Normal, like
on Mandalore, it's that like glassy kind of, but it's perfectly flat. They have other stuff around them, but it's literally perfectly flat. And they're supposed to be in like a cave system and the ground is perfectly flat because they've not altered the stage. And it gives it away that they're shooting on a stage. A lot of movies and TV make that mistake. It's because it's expensive to build an uneven flooring, and then you can't move a camera dolly around on it because it's, but if they did that, it would look real.
So the other thing I can kind of in my head that I was thinking, that's a good point, and I really liked that. I didn't think about that, but now I'm going to see it all the time. So thank you.
You are, especially on Mandalore.
Yeah, but like think about the scene when in Andor. I know we're going to compare it to Andor. I'm sorry, everybody, but in Andor when he's on the planet, on his vacation or whatever, like packed with people, still like people everywhere, much kind of like the pact of Navarro, but you don't have that same feeling at all. And I don't know what it is, but I feel like the makeup for the aliens is so much better in Andor as well, comparatively to, like, I feel like that's where they save some money. It's not terrible, but it's also not great. Like it's like definitely has never been in any of the seasons like really made me go, oh wow, this really feels like stuff from the movies. It feels like, oh, this is a lower budget aliens from the movies,
Yeah.
So
yeah, I do give appreciation for Mandalorian for using a lot of physical puppets though.
Yeah.
For characters, for aliens, like and I could tell that they're, at least to my eye, it looks like they make Grogu a puppet as much as they possibly can. And I give them all the credit in the world for doing that. Even if it doesn't look perfect, it's to my eye, it still feels more like Star Wars.
Yeah.
When you do a puppet and then maybe you do a little CG manipulation later to the puppet, and then you get it. I think you get a better performance from actors too, because they actually are physically holding this thing.
Yeah.
But then it leads me into a complaint of the fact that everybody just passes him around like he's a Louis Vuitton bag or something. Like
he's lost all meaning of like,
just, yeah.
Well,
it's almost like they made the character of Grogu too young to start the show. And then he ages so slowly that it's just like, this is how he always is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm kind of bored with that.
Well, and I also don't want to see him through his like teenage years, like we have that with Groot in the Marvel universe. And I'm like, it was funny for that, the first like Guardians of the Galaxy 2 like mid-credits scene. That was hilarious, right? But now I'm like, it's the same shtick. Like, let's get past this. But you know they're going to do something like that, like the teenage years, the moody teenager kind of a thing. And I'm like, no, let's just go. Be done.
Yeah, I don't know.
And he starts to talk and talking like a Yoda voice or something like that. He's going to lose a lot of his cuteness. Like we're all going to be like, okay, and we're over him being this cute, cuddly little thing. Like he loses some of that marketability when he does transition into being a fully fledged kind of adult or teenager. So,
have you read anything to indicate how many seasons they're intending of Mandalorian?
No, I think we're there. So what I've read is that they're going to probably do one more season of Mandalore. They're doing Ahsoka. They're doing something else. I forget what it's called. But I think then now they've just announced that Filoni is directing a movie and writing and directing a movie to kind of cap this whole series things, which also makes me go, is that why some of the changes happen? Because this is the first time we're hearing of this. Is some of those changes of like Kathleen coming in telling Favreau that we got to do this because Filoni or someone has an idea of this is what I want my movie to be, and so now we got to kind of shoehorn everything in, which obviously Favreau doesn't like that. I mean, that's one of the reasons why he walked away from the Iron Man series, because he was so frustrated with Marvel telling him what he couldn't do in his Iron Man movies, and so he was
may
like,
have to do that with this too.
Yeah, which is so sad because the first season of Mandalorian is great, and especially coming off of like Rise of Skywalker, it was a breath of fresh air, But
yeah, it really was. I hate to see somebody that I know is supremely talented, especially on the writing, directing end, and I just know for a fact, because we both know how this town works. He's basically getting voted down.
Yeah.
On some really key creative decision making.
He may leave. A couple other people may leave. I think Pedro's going to do it as long as possible because now he can just basically phone it in. Like, I mean, if he's going to keep his helmet on for the entire series,
he barely even has to wear the suit.
Yeah, like
he's not. He might be in the suit like 25% of the time now.
Yeah, he has other people,
and the rest is just him in a voiceover booth. It's the greatest gig ever.
Yeah, you're in Star Wars, but. I mean, he's basically James Earl Jones, of The Mandalorian, like he doesn't have to be in the suit, but he gets all the credit, Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
So
I wonder if Katie's like, how often are they making her wear the suit as Bo-Katan?
Yeah.
Because it looks like her when she's walking around, like maybe there's a stunt double that has mimicked her walk, but she has a very distinctive way of kind of moving around.
So one thing I noticed, and I don't know why, but I kind of dislike this, is that like any chance she gets, she takes that helmet off. Like in the worst moments, like when she goes to Mandalore for the first time to get, the Mandalorian or whatever, like she walks into the cave that she knows like he's missing, and she just like looks around and just goes pop, takes the helmet off and just kind of stands there with it. I'm just like, you don't know what's happening. Like, first off, you thought this world was poisoned, and you're just gonna. I had so many problems and questions, so frustrating. So,
yeah, I don't know how much longer we should go because we're just gonna keep banging on this thing.
So I've got. Go ahead. You go.
No, go ahead.
So I got 2 points. One, I'm going to go back to kind of the same thing that I said before with, in Andor and stuff like that, but talked about kind of fan service and those kind of things. It's like they missed a couple of cool moments to recanonize something or to, reintroduce it or make that kind of fan service. Like so for example, the pirate ship, the Corsair or whatever, looked cool, brand spanking new for this show. It hasn't appeared anywhere else to the best of my knowledge that I can find, but it doesn't, I feel like this is perfectly new. Right? That would have been the perfect time to bring out the wealth of ships that we have from the books, role-playing games, video games, the other movies, and just kind of do like, again, one of those low-key, subtle fan service things where it's just like, if you know, but we're not beating you over the head with it, it would have been so much cooler, right? Again, that's kind of how fan service should be. It's like it doesn't call attention to itself, but if you know, you pick up on it. And this show did have some of those things, but it was mostly all like Filoni kind of like his own callbacks to his own stuff, right? Which is fine.
It's his baby.
It's his baby. But the other thing too was that like they really need. I really feel like they need to pull some of that expanded universe stories, rework them so that they're better, and start making those, like much like Marvel does with his comics. It's like you get the different storylines. Like Civil War was a whole huge storyline, right, that they adapted for the movies. It's very different in the movies than it was in the comic books. But I like that's what we should be doing, is pulling from this wealth of knowledge that we have, reworking it now that they're all kind of no longer canon, and put them up. I'm excited for where Mandalorian is going. I am excited for the other shows that are coming out. I mean, still Star Wars. It's still better than the sequel trilogy. I am excited that we're still getting more Star Wars. So very happy. I'm just the current leadership at Lucasfilm. I don't have any faith in at the moment. And
I know they're trying to do this. When they announced the movie lineup, because I did want to address that. I was slightly encouraged because I felt like they had kind of learned some lessons, that the idea of a one size fits all Star Wars is no longer possible. The fan base is too broad in age to do that. And so when they announced the 3 films, I was like, and then I saw the directors attached to each one. I was like, okay, that makes sense. You have the really, really, you go back thousands of years film that tonally I think feels like it's built for you and me and older, basically, 35 to 40 plus. I always viewed The Mandalorian as that kind of broader, would draw me, would draw you, would draw people in their 20s that grew up with the prequels, that view the prequels in a much better light than I do, because they were kids when they saw them. And then you have
War series,
then you have the sequel trilogy crowd, and so they've decided to bring Rey back. And I can complain all I want about that, but those movies made money. They didn't make quite as much money as Lucasfilm had intended, or Disney especially was wanting, but they still made a boatload of money. So when they announced that, I was like, well, that makes sense. Plus, Daisy Ridley is available.
Yep.
Her career, unfortunately, is not, evolved for her to do a bunch of other stuff. She's, I wouldn't say she's blackballed, but she just hasn't been able to land anything outside of this. So she's available. So I was like, okay, they've learned that the Star Wars fan base is fragmented. My hope was that, this 3rd season of Mandalorian would continue to have that broad appeal for people that are, 45 or 50, along with a little bit younger crowd, but they seem to have just skewed so much younger. That's what it feels like. It feels like it's made for the prequel crowd again. And they're just like, Ben, you just keep your Andor to yourself and, enjoy that. And I was like, that doesn't make sense. There was a recipe here for making probably the segment of Star Wars that's the widest. Mm-hmm. And that's what Mando 1 and 2, first 2 seasons, felt like it was appealing to. And the audience response matched that. People were just like, this is fantastic. Because it did have a little bit of camp, because Star Wars has a little bit of camp, but I just think they've swung that pendulum too far. And maybe they can bring it back a little bit for season 4. I'm not asking for a version of Andor with Mandalorian. That's not what I want. It probably wouldn't work. It would feel too self-serious.
No.
But because just the era that it's in, post Empire, New Republic, it doesn't need to be that dark.
No, but I think you can still go dark. But that's not what Mandalorian is. Mandalorian is that, like you said, that Western, that adventure of the week kind of a thing, which is great. Which is again, I don't need all this stuff. I also want a Donald Glover and Alden solo Lando, where they meet up and they just do heists. I want Ocean's 11. Like, do an Ocean's 11 with those two guys, you know, like as a show movie.
You heard it here first, folks. Alec and I are actually fans of Solo.
Oh,
I like that movie.
It's out of the Disney Star Wars films, it's my second favorite. Rogue One.
Behind Rogue One, yeah.
Yeah.
I just always wonder what would we have gotten before they fired those directors on Solo? Because it's supposed to be a way funnier movie.
Yeah.
And I was probably going to be here for it. I was looking forward to that. But apparently it was so far off the rails that they just said no. But no, this isn't a discussion of Solo. But yeah, I liked Solo. I thought the tone was right. You know, God bless Ron Howard for coming in and delivering something that was really pretty good.
Yeah. But I mean, give me that heist show. Give me a show on Rogue Squadron post Return of the Jedi or whatever, and how they're dealing with, you know, being still part of the military and doing some demilitarization. Because
wasn't Patty Jenkins is that who was set up to do Rogue Squadron? I believe
so. Or was she doing the Rangers one with Gina? Whatever her name is, the one.
I don't know. I'm not going to Google it right now, but
yeah, that's fine.
Rogue Squadron was supposed to be a thing, and for whatever reason, they got cold feet once fan backlash for whatever
but
happened.
Give me different tone stories. Like give me the dark Andor. Give me the funny heist, Solo Lando show. Give me this kind of, let's talk about politics and in a post-Empire world of how we're trying to get things together or run down these warlords and things of that sort. So I don't know. I think there's so much wealth. And for those people who say Star Wars is just for kids, like obviously we've all grown up with it. We were kids when we first watched them, but we still love these, still love the movies. We can do different stuff and still call it Star Wars.
Yeah.
So anyways, that's my diatribe.
Any parting thoughts on Mando?
I'm excited to see what's next. I watched it. It was very flawed, but there was fun moments. There's good moments, but it definitely wasn't 1 and 2.
Yeah, I'm with you. Fortunately, a couple good episodes of a season 4 pretty much for me erases memories of, a flawed season 3. I don't tend to hold grudges with this stuff. So if give me a good first 3 episodes of season 4 and all's forgiven. Because I don't have to go back and watch season 3. Yeah. Nobody's forcing, Ben, you got to sit down and watch that again. Nope, don't have to. And I won't. So, well, I think that wraps it up.
Yeah.
For the Mandalorian season 3. Appreciate everybody watching on YouTube, listening to the audio only podcast.
This is a lot of fun for us. And so if you have different thoughts, if you thought Mandalorian season 3 was the best, then you're wrong. But, let us know.
You're wrong.
So, all right. Well, thanks everybody.